Hello and welcome to another session of Let's Get Real with Mona. Now, today we're going to have some sound effects because there's a bit of a thunderstorm here in Johannesburg. So let's just trust that it doesn't affect us too much and we can go on for the time that we have together. So, how have you been doing? I mean, can you believe it? It's the 28th of February. I love it when time flows and we get to see each day shifting and moving. And I love it when I get to see my shifts and my changes. And I'm sure you're experiencing the same as well. Well, that's the rumble of the thunder here in Johannesburg. And just by the way, for those of you who don't live in the Highveld, that's what this area is called. The thunder and lightning can be pretty hectic, and some people get very scared. But I'm not one of those people. I kind of like the thunder and lightning. So, as long as it doesn't interfere with our transmission today, then you and I are good to go. So, like I was saying, we're at the end of the second month of the year, and a lot of interesting things have been happening in the world. I'm sure many of you are feeling the jitteriness around, feeling the pain, the anguish, whatever's going on in the world right now. But I just want to remind you, whatever is going on in the world, this is the end of a cycle. This is a shift. This is the old still clutching on for dear life. There are many people out there who have looked at the energetics of what's going up there in the Ukraine. And what they've found is that this is really the last attempts to hold on to something because the change is upon us. And as many of you know, we are in the magical energy of the twos. And interesting enough, this whole thing started last week on 22/2/2022. So yes, this is a clear sign for us that change is here. And as you know, with change comes a lot of discord at times, but it's for us not to lose faith when all this is happening. It's for us to remember that there's always light. So when you think about the way the world exists, the way we exist in it, what do you understand when you think about the power of the divine? Where do you believe it comes from? Who do you believe can access it? Now, these are questions that I'm sure many of us have been pondering for a long time. And if you haven't been pondering, I think it's time that you do ponder about it. Like, wonder how, if we look at our hands, if we look at our feet, how was this created? How did all these fingers, how did the toes, how did our nose, how did our eyes form? How did our lips, our teeth, how did we come to be? And when you look at a child and you see the stages that the child goes through, pre-birth and after birth, don't you just sit there wondering? Don't you just sit there in wonderment of the unfolding of all this? Now, for me, that's divine power. That's the power of the divine at work. That's this power that's created everything. All of us, you and me, everything around us. You know, whether you look at the stars, whether you look at the sun, whether you look at the moon, whether you look at a tree or flowers, whether you feel the wind or you look up at the clouds, it's all being created every single moment something is being created, right? Now, if we understand that we are in the space of creation, that it doesn't matter where we are in the world, things are constantly changing because that's the only constant, change. Things are constantly moving. We may not always be able to see it with our eyes or this physical eye as we can see it now, but we understand that things are constantly changing and moving. Then we should also be aware of the fact that if creation is happening all the time, why aren't we using that creative force, that power of the divine? Why aren't we in that frequency? Why aren't we allowing it to flow to us and then flow through us and then wherever we have to send it? Just think about it. When was the last time you ate a tomato or a potato? When you go back and you think about where this started, because the tomato or the potato doesn't just show up, it started from somewhere. Do you ever think about where it started? How did that seed come to be? How does the seed planted in the soil of Mother Earth with some water, with the right conditions of the soil, then becomes a little seedling, a little bit more nurturing, some love and attention. It then grows into a tree or a plant, depending on the variety of this tomato. We're talking about tomatoes. And then you see this little fruit. And then if you just blink your eye, you could miss that it's just popped out and it's grown and it's become so much bigger. And then you and I get to enjoy this beautiful, beautiful tomato. Now, I have no idea why I chose a tomato. I guess because I've seen such beautiful tomatoes growing in my backyard. And for me, it's always fascinating. It's fascinating when I see how the seed turns into this beautiful vegetable. Or for some of you, if you believe a tomato is a fruit, I believe tomato is the only thing that's regarded as a fruit and a vegetable. So however you see it, for me, I see a tomato as a vegetable. For me, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see the beauty of that growth, the beauty of that creation. And then that creation nourishes me, nourishes my body. It provides so many opportunities for us to experience it. Now, this is the same for other fruit and vegetable, for other things that exist on this planet besides us in this human form. Whether we look at the animals, whether we look at the fish in the ocean, or rivers, because there's also fish in rivers. It doesn't matter where life exists, whether we look at gold in the ground or diamonds or other crystals and gems that we find around. This is how this power of the divine works. This is how creation works. Right? Now, if you look at it, it doesn't seem that this power ends. If creation is constantly happening, why then, when we see a little seed transform into a fruit or a vegetable, why aren't we not afraid when we see that happening? But yet, when we speak about the word magic, there's a little bit fear that comes into it. It's an uneasiness when we use the word magic. Because think about it. The miracle of a seed turning into this beautiful plump tomato, that's such a magical process. But yet, when we think about magic, There could be this whole apprehension about what magic is. And yet, life itself is magical. Life itself is miraculous. The birth, the creation of life on this planet. For me, that's the process of magic. Yet, we can be so afraid of that word. And this is where creation occurs. This is where everything is unfolding. Because it is through those, what is termed as those supernatural processes. Because the power of the divine is seen as a supernatural process. It is seen as supernatural because it can't be explained. And yet, it's a magical process. But many people associate magic with something dark and sinister. And yes, if you live in South Africa, I think we've seen more black magic than we've seen fun magic, shall I say. And I guess I understand why a lot of people in South Africa and in Africa are almost afraid of the word magic because of how it's being used. Now remember, energy is energy. We can use energy for good or we can use it for bad. Just look what's happening in the world right now. That's all energy. That's people wanting to control other people wanting to show that they have more power than other people. So we can use that power for good, or we can use it to harm and hurt other people. And that's how energy works as well. So just think about it. When you witnessed a magic show for the first time when you were a kid, were you scared? Or were you sitting there in wonderment, wondering, how did that magician do that? How did that magician, like, make the dove pop out of his hat? Now, many of us know by now that is all illusion, right? But as a child, you sat there with this wide-eyed, wondering and wanting to know how to do that. And that's the wonderment. That's that wonder that we want to show up with every single day, looking at how can we partner with the universe? How can we partner with the creator of all this that we get to experience as us, what nature has to offer? How do we partner with that frequency, with that energy? How do we partner with that magical essence to create a beautiful life for us and for all around us? Because that's what it is. It's partnership. How many magicians have you seen who has a partner on stage with them, helping them with their magic tricks? Lots of them. So can you see? You can't do this on your own. We have to do it in partnership. So why not partner together with the divine? And together we use the power of the divine to create a better life for ourselves and for everyone around us, right? So I hope you aren't feeling as afraid if you were one of those people who was afraid of the word magic, because that was deliberately chosen for the month of February. You see, the essence of the feminine is magical. We produce, through our body, we produce another living being like all other mammals as well. How does this happen? It feels like this magical essence around you. And I guess that's what I want you to tap into. When you think, for me, the greatest magician on the planet is Walt Disney. He turned his dreams, because that's what he's known as a business archetype. He's known as the magician. How many of you have been to Disneyland or Disney World? Well, do you think, oh, it's all magical, I can't go there? No. People go there in their throngs. Children, adults just are in absolute awe. They are light and fun and playful in that space. So why are we afraid of magic when Walt Disney brought this playfulness to all of us? Like I said, I know it's been used incorrectly, it's been misjudged, misunderstood. But this is why the world is the way it is. We've made certain things bad. It's through incorrect teachings. And we don't realize that there's another side to it as well. There's light and dark. There's good and bad that's coexisting at any given time. And we have a choice of what we do with it. So that power of the divine is this energy. We can't see it. We can't explain it. We know it's there. We know it created you and I. We know it creates the beautiful fruit and veg and flowers and trees and plants that come out through Mother Earth. And yet we don't want to work with it. We don't want to use that energy that's so freely available for each and every one of us. Now, the whole question is this, right? Are you willing to tap into this energy, to tap into this frequency? Are you willing to use it and work with it to benefit yourself and everyone else? Because here's the thing, you don't have to be someone special to tap into it. There's been a lot of false teachings about that as well, that you have to become someone to touch it and tap into it. No. When you breathe, do you ask for permission first? Do you ask anyone if you can breathe the oxygen or the air that's around you? No. You just breathe. So it's the same way. The same way that you just breathe, you just tap into the frequency of the power of the divine. You tap into it and you bring it to you. You allow it to be around you, because that's what's been happening. When we've been rejecting or thinking that it's only for other people, or you have to be a certain way to connect with it, or there's not enough, that's what happens. We push it further and further away. And what do you think we're doing? We end up being further and further away from this energy of creation. So, are you going to look more closely at your relationship with the power of the divine? Now, here's some tips on how you can access this power of the divine. A great way is to acknowledge that this power does exist. Because think about it, do we talk about things like this? Do we sit around to say, wow, just look at that tree. Look at this beautiful apple. Imagine the energy, imagine the power that created this and brought this to me. Do we sit around and have that type of conversation? No. We spend too much time talking about what's not working instead of focusing and acknowledging that which is working. So, even though these tips are how to align to the power of the divine so you can align to your abundance, it's also addressing the discord that's happening in the world right now. Because the more we look at what is negative, that's going to expand and grow. But if we shift our attention to what is working and all the good in the world, that's going to tip the scales. And eventually, that is going to go down and the good's going to rise. Now, that is part of how you tap into the power of the divine. It's by acknowledging that it exists constantly within you, around you, irrespective of what's happening in your life. And we've got to do this every single moment of the day. But you can practice it at least once a day. Acknowledge it to yourself, acknowledge it to others. Acknowledge the wonder of this life that we have, that we get to live. Right? The other way to connect to this power, the power of the divine, is through prayer or meditation. It's deliberate action. It's deliberate connection. This is saying to that which we cannot see, the spiritual side, that we understand that we are physical beings and we are spiritual beings, and that both have to coexist in order for there to be creation, in order for there to be peace in the world, in order for us to have and experience abundance in our life and everyone across this world to experience that. So, prayer and meditation helps us to connect to the power of the divine. Now, the other way to do this is look around you every day and make note of how it's specifically working for you, the power of the divine. Because you see, it's one thing acknowledging the apple or whatever it is in a sort of a distant way, but how is it showing up for you? Because the more we acknowledge it and we give thanks for it, what do you think is going to happen? Well, then that's the frequency that likes hanging around us. Because when we align to that frequency, well, then we tend to tap into the reservoirs of it. We tap into where it's hanging out. And that's where the magic happens. And the other thing we can do is to breathe consciously. Now, you may be thinking, seriously, I'm going to be tapping into the power of the divine by breathing? Absolutely. Because you see, sometimes we breathe very shallow. We breathe on a surface level. Where do you think the power of the divine resides? Deep within us. So, when we consciously breathe, we understand that we've got to breathe deeper in, not just as shallow surface breaths. So what we're doing is we're bringing the breath from the outside, we're bringing the frequencies from the outside, and then we're connecting it to that which is within, and then we're bringing it out into the world. Because you notice a breath is in and a breath is out. That's one cycle of a breath. So we're bringing all that we believe is outside of us into us, and then we are connecting it with that infinite wisdom within, and we're sending it out. And that's a beautiful way, a simple way to connect with the power of the divine. Now, have you noticed that when you understand, you acknowledge, you connect with the power of the divine? Have you noticed that opportunities show up? You can't even explain it. And I guess this is why I say it's magical. Things show up, doors open up, people show up in your life. You may start eating differently. You may suddenly decide, oh, wow, I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to do a different type of exercise, or I'm going to go learn something new. You almost feel this burst of energy coming from within that you can't explain. And that's why I say it's magical. That's our true magical essence that's within. Because if you think logically and if you want to use science to kind of explain it, there may not be an explanation. Because it's this deep stirring within. It's this connection to that sacred part of us that causes us to show up differently in the world. Now, this is what the journey of the sacred feminine is all about. It's not just about us knowing that things are there. It's about knowing that something is there and understanding that it's available for us to use, work with, partner with, to create. Because you see, there's one truth that we may have forgotten, and that is that every single moment of our life, we are creating. We're either creating good experiences and memories, or we're creating ones that we want to run away from. So which ones are you creating? And this is just it. If you look at what's happening in the world right now, we have the opportunity right now. We have the opportunity to step into the frequency of creation, not fear, because there's only two frequencies that exist in the world, fear or love. Creation is love. So if you're willing to step into that, it means you've got to first do the work inside. You see, the world is not only going to mirror to us what is still sitting deep within. We have to first do the work as individuals before we can impact what's happening around the world. And imagine if we all take the journey, we all go understand that as we do the work within every single day, a small practice every single day, we're going to see the effect. It's like that seed, that tomato seed. You plant the seed and you put it in the soil. You give it some water, you give it some attention, you go check up on it if there's no rain, or you check up on it if there's been too much of a storm going on. But you allow it underground, you allow the seed to germinate, you allow the seed to evolve. It's the same with us. The beauty comes out when we are willing to go deep within and go visit those places that are mirroring to us on the outside, whatever it is that's happening. Because remember, we are constantly creating. And I guess this is what the way of the sacred feminine is. It's about collaboration. It's about caring for another. It's about love and peace and unity and abundance and prosperity. It's about power in its most abundant form, in its most magical form, in its most beautiful form. Because think about it, we require power for things to grow. We require power to move from one place to another. So power is not a bad thing. Like magic is not a bad thing. Power is not a bad thing. It's about us ensuring that power is in the hands of the right people. And when you come from an open, expanded, loving heart, you know that whatever power comes to you, you're going to use it for good. You're going to use it to make this world a better, brighter place for all. And that is the way of the sacred feminine. You see, the sacred feminine is not just about women coming together, trying to show whatever, that there may be past distortions about what women do when they come together. This is about bringing the divine masculine and the divine feminine to create the sacred feminine. This is what the journey is about. And until we do that within, and yes, right now, women, we are being asked to step forward. We are being asked to create the new, because we are being asked to birth the new, right? We have that responsibility. So if you're a woman out there and you're ready for change, you're ready for movement in your life, it's time for you to connect with the sacred feminine within, because the world is ready for us. The world is ready to experience a softer, lighter, brighter, prosperous, abundant world. A world where peace and unity is not a dream, it's a reality. So I am on that journey. Are you going to go on it too? Because we are being asked, as the women of this world, we're being asked to step forward. We're being asked to stop being afraid of the power that we carry within, because that power is the life force that we give to another human being. That power is the life force for this planet. That power is Mother Earth, and we as women are a representation of Mother Earth. So the question is, are you willing to go on that journey? Are you ready to go on that journey? Because right now it's for those pioneering spirits. Right now it's for those who have had enough, who are done with all the discord in the world. Are you ready to be the answer that the world's been looking for? Because if you know me by now, you know that I know that women are the answer to a better, brighter world. And the question is, will you be part of the solution for a better, brighter world? So that's what I wanted to leave you with today. I'm sending love to every part of the world because we are all in this together. I'm sending love to wherever it's most required right now. And I'm going to ask you to do the same. Because you see, we don't have to wonder whether that love is going to reach where it has to. We know that through partnership with the power of the divine, through partnership with this magical frequency that's all around us, that our intentions will be carried through that frequency to where it's needed. And all you and I are required to do is send love to each and every one, even the aggressors, even the oppressors, because they deserve our love just as much as well. So that's it from me for today. I wanted to bring this energy to you today. I wanted to share this space with you today and let you know that things are changing. And that's why we get to experience the world as it is right now. So until next time, ciao for now.